If your house feels like an oven by 3 in the afternoon, the problem may not begin in your walls. It may begin above your head. Up there where the sun hits first. Up there where the dark roof keeps drinking heat hour after hour. Up there where most people never look until a leak shows up or a shingle blows loose. My name is Eli, and I want to show you one of the plainest old cooling ideas a family can learn. Not an app, not a machine, not a smart thermostat with 7 menus and a monthly update. I mean a white powder in a cheap paper bag. The same kind of plain thing a hardware store shelf can hide in the bottom row while people walk past it looking for expensive answers. The powder is hydrated lime, old-fashioned whitewash lime, burned limestone slaked with water, the sort of thing plain families used long before an air conditioner ever hummed in a window. And before I go any further, let me say this carefully so nobody twists my meaning. This is not a magic powder that turns every house into a refrigerator. It is not permission to ignore ventilation, insulation, safety, roofing compatibility, or local rules. It is not a claim that you can dump white powder on any roof and solve summer forever. It is a low-cost reflective idea rooted in a simple truth. White surfaces reflect more sunlight, dark surfaces absorb more of it. That is not folklore, that is physics. So if the principle is that simple, why does the whole world not do it? That is where the story gets interesting. Because the real fight is not always over whether it works. Sometimes the fight is over whether it looks acceptable, whether a neighborhood rule book allows it, and whether people have been trained to trust costly systems more than cheap ones. That is why the title I chose for this video is not Banned in 17 States, because I have not seen a state-by-state list proving that claim. What I have seen, and what many old house and Amish-style cooling videos actually point to, is something more ordinary and more annoying: neighborhood and HOA rules that do not want bright white, highly reflective roofs, even when those roofs could make the building cooler. And sometimes the smaller, more ordinary truth is more revealing than the dramatic one. No grand conspiracy is required when a rulebook already says your roof must stay dark. Now let me take you to the heart of this whole idea. On a hot day, a dark roof acts like a skillet. It takes solar radiation, absorbs it, and turns that into heat. That heat does not politely stay outside. It moves downward. It warms the roof deck. It warms the attic. It adds stress to the rooms below. Then the machine in your window or the unit outside has to fight what the roof collected all afternoon. A lighter, more reflective roof surface does the opposite. It sends more sunlight away before that heat ever enters the structure in the same amount. That is the genius of the old lime wash idea. It is not cooling by producing cold. It is cooling by refusing heat. And those are two very different strategies. Most people today only think in terms of removing heat after it arrives. Air conditioning does exactly that. It pulls heat from the indoor air and dumps it outside. That can be wonderful. I am not against air conditioning. I am against waste. I am against feeding a problem from one direction and paying to undo it from the other. If your roof is grabbing the sun by the barrel all day long, and then you are paying an electric bill to fight that heat from below, you have built yourself a very expensive argument with the sky. The old way says, stop some of that argument before it begins. That is where hydrated lime comes in. Mixed with water into a thin whitewash, it creates a bright surface coating. Historically, whitewashed buildings, barns, sheds, springhouses, walls, and sun-beaten structures used that light color for sanitation, appearance, and heat reflection. The exact performance depends on the roof material, the climate, how it is applied, how long it lasts, and whether the surface is appropriate for a lime-based wash. But the principle is the same one used in modern cool roof products. Reflect more sunlight, absorb less heat, and that is why a $2 bag can inspire so much curiosity, not because the bag is miraculous, because the principle behind it is cheap. Now, if you have been watching these Amish-style or old house channels for long, you already know the pattern. A simple object, a low price, a statement that sounds too big, then a story, then an explanation, then the reveal that modern life often forgot something plain because plain things do not generate glamorous industries around themselves. This topic fits that pattern perfectly. So let us build the story the right way. Imagine August heat on a farmhouse roof, not the soft heat of 9 in the morning, I mean the punishing middle of the day, when the roof is taking a full beating and the upstairs air has started to feel stale. In a house with a dark roof, that overhead surface becomes a collector. It absorbs and stores heat. It radiates downward. Your attic becomes a buffer full of warmth. Your bedrooms feel the consequence long after the sun begins to drop. Now imagine that same roof with a bright reflective surface. Not magic, not ice, just less absorbed sunlight. The roof runs cooler, the structure below takes less punishment. Your rooms do not have to recover from the same level of heat load. That is the entire sermon in one line. The roof you see for 5 seconds from the driveway may be the reason your bedroom feels unbearable at 4 in the afternoon. And most people never connect those two facts. So why do so many homeowners not use reflective white surfaces? First, appearance. People have been trained to see dark charcoal, weathered brown, and fashionable gray as normal and high-end. White often gets treated like a utility color, a flat roof color or a commercial color, even though its thermal logic is obvious. Second, rules. Some HOAs, deed restrictions, or neighborhood standards specify acceptable roof colors and materials. That can mean bright white coatings or obviously reflective finishes are frowned upon or prohibited, not because they do not cool, but because they do not match the approved look. Third, habit. People are willing to buy a stronger air conditioner before they are willing to question whether the roof itself is making the fight harder. Fourth, durability and compatibility. Not every roof should be whitewashed. Not every roof surface welcomes lime. Not every climate makes the same trade-off sensible. Modern commercial cool roof coatings may be more appropriate on many surfaces than a homemade lime wash. So the old trick is not a universal instruction. It is a principle lesson, and that lesson is powerful. Because once you understand the principle, you stop being fooled by the word simple. Simple does not mean weak. Simple often means fundamental. Now let me walk you through how an old-fashioned version of this idea is usually described. Hydrated lime, the type sold as Type S in many hardware stores, is mixed with water until it forms a thin wash. Some traditional recipes use only lime and water. Some use salt or other ingredients in other contexts. But straight hydrated lime whitewash is the core idea people talk about when they describe old reflective coatings. The wash is then applied to a compatible surface to create a light reflective finish. That is the basic picture. But here is where I want to be more useful than sensational. Do not hear old trick and immediately climb a ladder with a bucket. Hydrated lime is caustic. It can irritate skin and eyes. Roof work can be dangerous. And some roofing materials can be damaged, stained, voided, or made problematic by the wrong coating. So the smart way to learn from this idea is in layers. First, understand the principle. A whiter, more reflective roof can reduce heat gain. Second, evaluate your house honestly. Do you have attic ventilation problems? Do you have poor insulation? Do you have direct west-facing heat loading? Do you have outdated windows? Is the upstairs hot because the roof is dark, or because 3 other things are failing too? Third, decide what solution matches your situation. For some people, the answer may be a modern cool roof coating recommended for their specific roof type. For others, it may be improving attic ventilation. For others, radiant barrier strategies, insulation upgrades, or shade improvements matter more. For a shed, coop, or outbuilding, an old-style reflective wash may be easier to experiment with than on a full residential roof. That is how adults save money, not by copying a claim blindly, by extracting the principle and applying it correctly. Now let me tell you why this topic goes viral, because it contains 3 things audiences love. First, a tiny price. This costs $2. That immediately creates tension. People think if it is that cheap, why have I never heard of it? Second, a large enemy. Air conditioning bills. Nothing gets attention like a monthly bill everyone hates. Third, a forbidden angle. Why is it banned? Whether the truth is HOA rules, local restrictions, or aesthetic codes, the forbidden frame makes people lean in. That is the template. Low price, big problem. Hidden solution, conflict. And it works because the audience is not only curious about cooling, they are curious about why simple answers seem so hard to find. But let us come back to the practical side. Suppose you are sitting in a hot upstairs room every summer and you want relief. What should you take from this video? Take this. Your roof color and reflectivity matter more than many people realize. So when an old Amish-style or farmhouse channel talks about a cheap white powder that replaces air conditioning, the dramatic part is the word replaces. The useful part is the reflectivity lesson. It can reduce heat load. It can help a structure stay cooler. It can make other cooling strategies work better. It may reduce how hard your AC has to fight. That is already a big deal, because real household savings rarely come from one miracle. They come from a chain of sensible decisions that stop waste at the source. If your roof absorbs less heat, and your attic vents properly, and your insulation is decent, and your windows are managed sensibly, and your night cooling strategy makes use of cooler outdoor air, then your mechanical cooling burden changes. That is the system view. The old channels package it as a secret, because secrets get views. But under the surface, the winning idea is almost always systems thinking. Now let me give you the script version of the emotional turn, because every good video like this needs one. There is a kind of frustration many homeowners carry that has nothing to do with the thermostat itself. It is the frustration of paying more without feeling relief. The bill rises, the unit runs longer, the upstairs is still hot, the hallway is cooler than the bedrooms, the machine hums all afternoon, and still, by dinner, the house feels tired. That is when a topic like this lands, because people are not just shopping for cooling, they are shopping for dignity. They want to feel that they understand their own house again. They want to believe they are not helpless before every utility bill. They want some old piece of wisdom to cut through modern complexity. And sometimes that old piece of wisdom is not a full answer, but it is a door. Hydrated lime is a door to a larger understanding. White reflects, dark absorbs, and the roof may be the first place to fight summer heat. That understanding can save people from making foolish decisions. For example, someone may be ready to spend thousands on a bigger air conditioning setup when the smarter sequence is first to examine the roof, attic, insulation, duct leakage, shade, and sun exposure. Bigger equipment does not always solve a building shell problem. That is a hard lesson, but it is a useful one. Now I want to answer the question in the title directly. Why do so many HOAs hate it? Because uniform appearance often outranks thermal common sense in rulebook culture. Because bright white looks wrong to people who were sold a different image of what a proper neighborhood should look like. Because a cooling idea that reads as practical to a farmer may read as visually disruptive to a committee. And because once aesthetics are written into the fine print, the sun does not get a vote. That is the irony. A roof color can be approved even when it makes the building hotter. A cooler idea can be discouraged even when it would help. So the old trick becomes controversial, not because it violates physics, but because it violates expectations. And expectations are powerful things. Now, if you want the responsible takeaway, here it is. Do not treat hydrated lime as a toy. Do not treat your roof as an experiment surface without research. Do not ignore manufacturer guidance. Do not assume every viral video has done the hard compatibility work for you. And do not confuse an attention-grabbing title with a complete engineering plan. But also do not throw away the principle just because the title was dramatic. There is real value here. A reflective roof strategy is real. The cooling effect of lower solar absorption is real. And the question of whether your building is fighting summer from the top down is a smart one to ask. In other words, even if you never buy a bag of hydrated lime, you can still become a wiser homeowner from this idea. You can ask better questions. You can inspect your house differently. You can stop assuming the thermostat is the whole story. That alone is worth a video. So here is what I want you to remember when this ends. The powder is hydrated lime. The principle is reflectivity. The enemy is solar heat gain. The conflict is often aesthetics and rules, not science. And the lesson is that cheap ideas can still be powerful when they attack the real source of the problem. That is the whole matter laid out plain. A $2 bag will not save every house, but a $2 lesson might. It might teach you that your roof is not decoration, it is equipment. It might teach you that cooling starts before the thermostat notices trouble. It might teach you that some of the best household savings still come from lowering the burden instead of only increasing the response. And if an old white powder helps you see that, then it has already done useful work. Let me make that practical in one more way. If you want a simple order of operations, here it is. First, inspect the roof color and condition. Second, inspect attic ventilation. Third, inspect insulation depth and gaps. Fourth, think about shade, window exposure, and west sun. Fifth, compare a reflective strategy that actually fits your roof type, whether that means a code-compliant cool roof product, a coated outbuilding, or another surface treatment approved for the material. That order keeps people from wasting money on the wrong fix first, because the goal was never really to worship the powder. The goal was to recover the principle, keep the heat out first. Then you do not have to spend as much money dragging it back out later. That is how a plain man would put it, and sometimes the plain sentence is the one worth keeping. So the next time you stand in a hot upstairs room in July and wonder why your machine seems tired, do not only look at the thermostat. Look up, look at the roof, ask what color it is, ask how much heat it takes in. Ask whether your house is collecting the very thing you are paying to remove. That question can change the whole way you think about summer. Because once you stop seeing the roof as a passive surface and start seeing it as the first battleground, your choices become clearer. You stop buying only stronger machines. You start asking for smarter shells. You stop treating cooling like a monthly emergency. You start treating it like a design problem. And in household life, the right question often saves more money than the fast answer ever will. If this video gives you nothing else, let it give you that one habit. Before you buy more machinery, ask whether your house is first making too much heat for that machinery to fight.